Numero uno piece to the puzzle. Not a bad little chunk for a first fish. Buddy, you got this in an awkward position. Another little guy. Damn it. Hey, shallow. All right, so I'm going to recap my morning for you. Decided yesterday I wanted to fish something a little bit different, so I decided to head out to White Rock Lake in eastern Dallas. And to tell you a little bit about that lake, it's shallow all the way around. I don't think it gets more than about 15 or 20 foot deep at any point. Lots of rocks. It's a really rocky lake. And along the banks, lots of reeds, weeds, and there's quality cover close to it, but it's all super shallow. I haven't been out to White Rock in about a year, and last month we had a lot of flooding, a lot of rain, so I didn't know exactly where clear water was going to be, where muddy water was going to be. Just really flying blind today as to kind of the conditions out there as far as the water goes. Checked the forecast, and when I first got out there it was about 72 degrees. It was nice and cool, but it was a bluebird sky, no clouds. So pretty quickly that sun popped out and things started heating up pretty quickly. I didn't have any wind, and normally on that lake I'll rely on wind to kind of concentrate bait fish on certain rocky banks, and that's kind of how I try to fish that one. But with no wind, didn't really have anything to concentrate fish on. So being that the water's high and that there's some flooded vegetation, I knew that fish early, even after the post spawn here, they'll come up and feed shallow in the morning. I figured some of them at least would congregate around that flooded vegetation, and being a bank angler, that was obviously attractive to me, so that was going to be one of my plans. And then my fallback was going to be just chunking a square bill crankbait out as far as I could and just trying to cover water and get a reaction strike out of them. Well, I started off on the eastern side of the lake there at Winfrey Point. Saw some activity further out than I could cast. So I guess those fish were on the first break, feeding a little bit deeper. So I flipped around in the bushes and just kind of messed around for about 30 minutes, didn't catch anything. And what I noticed there was it was fairly clear water. It was about 3 feet of visibility, soft bottom, lots of leaves and stuff I was getting hung up on with the crankbait shallow. So it didn't really fit my eye real well. I didn't like it, so I decided to pack up and make a move. So I went to the west side of the lake, which is where I've caught most of my fish, out of White Rock. And I was originally going around to a bank line, shoreline that I've caught a lot of fish on historically, throwing crankbaits and just popping craws. But because of the wind and the fact that there was none today, I didn't know how productive that was going to be. So before I just hauled off over there, I decided to make a stop at a fishing pier that's over there. And just kind of I figured what was going to happen was I was going to flip the outside pylons and catch some fish getting some shade under there. But there weren't really any fish on the deeper pylons, so I started flipping to some of that flooded grass. I figured maybe they're real shallow, and I wound up catching my first fish in about a foot of water. So that's really kind of what I concentrated on. Caught my first one, switched to the crankbait, caught a couple on the shallower dock pylons, and then I just kind of kept fishing the weeds. Lost one, thought that was a good fish, about 2.5 pounds or so. He was pulling good, but he came off. And then I caught one more, kind of another fish on the smaller side, just throwing out there and kind of hopping it through the weeds. And given the conditions today, and knowing that pretty much the weather was working against me and I had a really small time frame to make something happen, I considered it a pretty successful day, having just going in blind and having everything go against you, not having been on the lake for a year. So, 4 fish, 5 bites, I was pretty happy. Showing you a little bit about the equipment I was using today. My flipping bait today was Strike King Rage Craw. And the area where I wound up catching my fish had dirtier water. I wasn't sure, whether a black color would be the best deal or not, or whether I should go, because it was sunny, whether I should go with a bait that had more fleck in it, like watermelon red or something like that. So I kind of split the difference and went with green pumpkin. And I went with something that had more thump to it and had more action. Because that water was dirty, I wanted to get their attention a little better. And I think that dirty water helped me out a lot. In the other areas, I think fish weren't holding as tight to cover. They were moving around, feeding a little bit better. But in that one spot where that water was dirtier, they were hanging onto that cover, and I knew exactly where they were going to be. I could focus in on where they were. Also the first time I kind of tried out a new way of tying my hook on. I know guys have been doing it for a long time. I've just never tried it, and that's doing a snell knot on your flipping hook. You can kind of see that. And after using it today and kind of seeing how it works, I'm a believer. It works good. It's pretty easy to tie. And what's neat about it is when you put pressure against that line on that weight, instead of just the hook staying straight, it will kick out like that. And obviously that point will kind of reach out and get in the fish's mouth. So from now on, flipping, I'm gonna be using a snell knot. I like that a lot. The hook is a 3/0 Trocar flipping hook. It's got a 1/2 ounce lead sinker and a peg. And the reason I went with 1/2 ounce, even though I'm fishing in 1 to 2 foot of water, is I wanted a pretty quick fall. With the water being a little bit warmer and those fish hanging on kind of that tight cover, I wanted to get a reaction bite. I wanted to get their attention really quick. I didn't want to dangle it in front of their face for a long time. I just wanted it to kind of fall in there and have them grab it, and that's what they did. So that was a pretty good combo there. The second bait I caught fish on was the ever popular KVD 1.5. One of my favorite square bill crankbaits, just because they're cheap, they work well, they run in erratic action just like a bait fish would. They kind of will hunt as they go along, and got a lot of fish on these. Going to continue to buy them. Just one of my all-time favorite baits here. And really, that's about it. All there was, just a fairly short day. Got fishing about 6. Got tired at 10. Didn't find any other spots. I just caught them all around that pier, that one spot. One thing I will add though, I made a mistake. I made some mental errors today. And the biggest one was when I was catching fish on that shoreline. I kind of outsmarted myself, and I thought, hey, if they're here on that other bank line, there's a lot more reeds and stuff to flip to. I can catch them there. And what I totally ignored was the fact that that side was going to be sunnier. There weren't as many weeds. There were more reeds, and they didn't seem like they were relating to the reeds today. So I kind of went to the wrong cover, just totally shifted gears when I was on fish, and that was really dumb. I think if I had stayed in the pier area and had fished that bank line, I could have caught more fish to start. But you know, for not being out here a year and just trying to explore around and feel around, you know, I learned something. So that was my day at White Rock. It's Texas Bass Guy 13. Remember to like and subscribe. When you like and subscribe, it tells me that, you know, you're liking my videos and that I'm not going out and doing all this editing and stuff for nothing. So I appreciate your support, appreciate the views. Y'all take care.